May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be always acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. Please be seated. The characters in today's parable reminded me of Saturday morning conversations in my parents' home. Bob, it's Saturday, take out the trash. 10 minutes later, Bob, take out the trash. Dad, discreetly turning off his hearing aids, and then Mom, Bob, can you hear me? Take out the trash. Eventually, of course, as this went on, Dad would take out the trash, but that conversation was as predictable as rain in April. In today's gospel, Jesus tells us a parable with another persistent petition. A widow keeps bothering a judge until he finally gives her what she wants. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. But the woman wasn't asking the judge to take out the trash. She was asking for justice. She was denied justice simply because the judge refused to act. He knew that she had been harmed, but he refused to grant her justice. And the judge said, I have no fear of God and no respect for anyone. In his eyes, there was no power greater than his own, no higher court, and therefore no accountability. So what if he didn't grant her the justice she deserved? We don't know how many times the widow appealed to the judge or how many times he ignored her, but she kept going. Jesus said the parable is about our need to pray always and not to lose heart, even when we think our prayers are not answered or not heard. We must continue praying faithfully. The woman's tenacity really spoke to me. She had no reason to believe that on the 138th time she went to court, the judge would finally say, all right, already, and grant her justice. She could have quit after the 5th time she went, or after the 50th time she went, or after the 137th time she went. But she did not. The woman refused to give up hope. Through the parable, Jesus shows us that persistent prayer is the living pulse of faith. It is a refusal to let cynicism have the last word. During the fall of 2017, I was a seminarian in Austin, and news of yet another tragic event in the United States was traveling across campus like wildfire. And I remember encountering a faculty member that day, walking the perimeter of the campus, praying out loud, lots of animation. The words of her prayer were for a lamentation against the violence and brokenness in our nation. She embodied exactly what Jesus named in the widow, a prayer that refuses silence and refuses resignation. Her words were not polished. This was not some beautiful collect she was saying. Her words just spilled out, raw and unfiltered. But her prayer was faithful in persistence. Her public witness of prayer and faith was a gift to me. I knew the demands on this woman's time were extraordinary, but there she was, pounding the pavement, praying for our world and for all of us. Persistent prayer is a way of saying, I'm still here. Here I am, God. And that got me thinking, isn't that what stewardship really is? God invites us to partner in God's work of justice and mercy, God's work of love and compassion and generosity. It's work that seems to have no end. Every day, it feels like the 137th time we've dealt with the same hard issues. And yet, like the widow, we keep showing up. We keep praying, giving, serving, forgiving. We keep doing the next faithful thing, not because it's easy, but because the world still needs to see God's love at work through us. Stewardship is not a transaction. It's not a check or an hour of community service, or one more good deed. Stewardship is tenacity. It's the faithful practice of showing up again and again and again with our prayers and our presence and our gifts and our hope, trusting that God can take our persistence and transform it into grace. Stewardship shapes our being. It forms us in patience, generosity, and courage, and hope. Just as a persistent prayer shapes our faith, repeated acts of faithful service and giving shape our hearts. Jesus asked, "When the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth?" Every time we gather in prayer, every time we offer our gifts, and every time we offer our care for one another, we are answering that question in the present. We can see that in our Zoom morning prayer and our Zoom compline, where people faithfully lift up the needs of our community. We see it in the ministry of our Daughters of the King, who quietly pray for all of us. And we can hear it in the daily meditations on our social media page. We see it in new ministries taking root here, like Education for Ministry, grief workshops, the Lemon Tree, the J2A youth group that are putting together and imagining their first ever pilgrimage. We see it in the way people show up for one another at hospitals, at homes, even at pool parties, and at tender moments of grief. And we feel it here in our worship together. We are a people filled with hope. Hope that refuses to quit, hope that shows up, and hope that perseveres. It's palpable here through each of us. When the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth? Yes. Yes, he will. Right here at St. Christopher's Episcopal Church. Amen.